did you say about your way in the universe? I won't be bound to be shut down in the universe.
For the past few years, Anne Ream has given voice to the silence surrounding rape and sexual violence. The writer, activist, entrepreneur, and former senior vice president at Leo Burnett Advertising founded the Voices and Faces Project. Its mission is to offer a sense of solidarity to survivors of rape and abuse. It also raises awareness of the impact of violence on victims, families, and communities. Ream says that's also the intent of the Voices and Faces Benefit Compact Disc. She recently sat down with 848's Steve Edwards to talk about the disc. Ream says music inspired her mission.
My first introduction to the notion of protest or the notion of activism really came from rock and roll. And whether it was the poetry of Bob Dylan or the rage of Elvis Costello, these were songs that really prompted me to think about my place in the world, my relationship to the world, and what I wanted to do to change the world. And I've always loved music, and I've spent most of my life listening to it. And one of my very close friends is a record producer and owns the label Burn and Shiver, and he and I forever have been talking about actually producing a CD. And when I started work on the Voices and Faces Project, he said, this is our moment. Let's go out. Let's find a community of artists who care about this issue, who believe that we can change the world through song, and want to record an amazing album. And so we went at it.
How did you go about choosing those artists in the end that wound up on this final disc? That
was tough. I mean, it was a great challenge for us because we are music lovers. So honestly, we had about 50 different people, and that's why we're talking about volume 2 and 3 right now. But I kind of went into it saying, let's identify artists who have written songs that are aesthetically and creatively so compelling and amazing, and at the same time aren't afraid to go to some of the dark places or the more difficult places in terms of sort of making a statement with their song. And, you know, in a certain way, I'd have to be honest and say I approached it as a fan. And I said, who are the artists I love? If I were burning a mixed CD for my 20 closest friends, who would be on there? And I am a fan of the artists on this CD. So we went to them first. And one of the most moving things was how quickly they responded. 9 of the tracks on this CD are actually all new. You can't get them anywhere else. They're exclusives. And we had artists coming back and saying, I want to give you this track. This speaks to the issue for me. I'm really moved by what you're doing, and let me spend some time writing a song for you. And for us, that was exciting because they took the issue, you know, an issue that we thought of as our issue, and they made it their issue.
I found a letter that said, I'm sorry that you were asleep when I wrote these words down. You'd think I ought to be used to that by now. Save for a few of those late night episodes, missed opportunities, and I don't care. There's not a lot that I feel obliged to share or talk about.
Why is this issue so important to you personally?
I'm a survivor myself, and so as a survivor and as an activist, I think I've been struck by the absence of creative voices and faces out there talking about the issue. And also as a writer and a creative director, what I understand is the power of creative ideas to change the way people interact with the world or the way that they look at those issues that are touching us every day but we may not be aware of.
To change the nature of the conversation, the way we perceive it, the frames in which we have the conversation.
Exactly. We talk about social justice issues, and I think we often talk about issues of violence against women in terms of statistics and in terms of facts, and that's critical because they're very compelling statistics. 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted over the course of their lifetime. That is very, very significant. But if we don't start to talk about this issue using the voices of survivors, if we don't enlist people who can look at those statistics and tell stories, whether it's through song or literature or other forms of art, we're not really going to impact the culture. I'm a believer in the power of creative ideas. And I think when a social reality intersects with a powerful creative interpretation, that's when we change minds and when we change hearts.
What do we need to change about the conversation that we're having now surrounding violence against women?
I think we need to change a couple things. One, and most urgently, is we need to be very honest about what violence against women is, how deeply ingrained it is in our culture, whether it's in music, in film, in song, in the T-shirts young women wear. I often call myself a lipstick feminist because I love fashion. But having said that, I think very often the ways women are represented in media lead to a culture that's corrosive, where women are not valued. And that sort of a culture inevitably leads to violence against women. And so we need to have a really honest conversation about some of the root causes of the objectification of women. And then the other thing I feel really strongly about is we need to take those pieces of the culture back. And that actually was part of what this CD was.
Chimney falls and lovers blaze. Thought that I was young. Now I've freezing hands and bloodless veins, as numb as I've become. I'm so tired. I wish I was the moon tonight. Last night I dreamt I'd forgotten my name, 'cause I sold my soul, but I won't just the same. I'm so lonely. I wish I was the moon tonight.
We're talking here on 848 on Chicago Public Radio with Anne Ream. She's the founder of the Voices and Faces Project, one of the producers of the first ever compact disc featuring 17 artists and 17 songs. It's called the Voices and Faces Project Volume 1. You know, one of the things that struck me as I listened to this particular release over and over again is just the sense of how many of the songs are open to multiple interpretations. That is to say that the song may apply directly to a story involving sexual violence in some way, but they might also apply to just the emptiness of a relationship that's gone wrong, or a dream deferred, or a desire to escape to a particular safe place in this world or beyond it. How much were you thinking of ways to let listeners from all different perspectives find their own meanings in these
It's
songs?
such a great question. One of the things that I've said about this album is we freed the artist to write about love, truth, beauty, social justice, whatever moved them. And in some cases said, write music that isn't necessarily about the state of the world today, but the state of the world as we wish it were. And that, I think, for these artists was very freeing. And one song that comes to mind, particularly Michelle Anthony's song, White Lies, interestingly, she did not write that song about the issue. She wrote it about a relationship. And the first time I heard that song, I'm not particularly weepy, and I wept hearing that song, because she captured, without even trying to capture it, this way that we as a society demand that survivors of violence or any form of trauma are silent. We don't want to hear them. We want them to tell these white lies about everything being fine, or it's not that bad, or I'm over it. And so she captured, it has this very powerful dual meaning. What's been interesting, because she's very involved now in the project, and she's touring right now, and she never plays that song, which originally wasn't written again for the issue, without talking about our project. And she told me recently that she now is almost in her own mind reinterpreted that music in light of what she learned about the issue.
Baby, we're wounded emotionally, without a doubt. Baby, we're wounded. Our hearts can take another bout. So why don't we forget it? It's not worth the trouble or the wait. Maybe forget it. All these white lies were for your sake. Baby, we're
There's a way music is compelling that I can never be compelling just speaking about the issue, or a statistic can't be so compelling. I mean, it really, it's personal, it's interpretive, and in without sounding too lofty, it's transcendent. I mean, it absolutely, it's hard to define what moves you when you fall in love with a song, but you know when it's happened, and you know that you belong to the song after that, and to be able to marry these issues that we care so much about to the power of music, to me, is probably one of the most exciting ventures I've worked on.
Anne Ream is the founder of the Voices and Faces Project. They've just put out the first compact disc, Volume 1 of the Voices and Faces Project, featuring 17 songs by a host of artists, including many from Chicago, the likes of Nora O'Connor, Kelly Hogan, and Nico Case, to name just a few. Anne, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Wasn't talking about tomorrow. Told you I'd be back. Guess I sold you down the river. Guess I should feel bad.
You can find out more about the disc at canasongsavetheworld.com. That's canasongsavetheworld.com. Or link it through our website at chicagopublicradio.org. That wraps up 848 for Tuesday, December 12th. Join us again tomorrow after Morning Edition, when we'll examine the rising cost of health insurance. Then we'll report on a new initiative to integrate immigrants into the fabric of Illinois life. Plus, food contributor Steve Dolinsky searches for some non-traditional holiday fare. Chicagoan Cynthia Castiglione shares a holiday memory, and we'll bring you the story of some bird watchers.
We've got about 20 to 30 minutes to catch this little sucker doing his breeding dance as the sun's coming up. If we miss that window, we've blown it.
We'll have that and more for you tomorrow at 9 after Morning Edition. Our program today was directed by Jason Mark and engineered by Harold Britton. Thanks to our Metro News, Arts, and Education and Humanities desks for production help this week. And thank you for listening. I'm Tony Sarabia, and this is 848 on Chicago Public Radio.
To tomorrow, better fun and time to pass. Come and get a ride for forever to a town called happiness in a day.